Hey everybody, and welcome to the Growth Experience Podcast. I am your host, Chris Dye. Our hope is that by listening to this podcast, you realize that you have a gift. And by believing in your gift, you can uncover your purpose and have vision for your life. Whether you're listening in your car, at home, or watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in, and let's go! Hey everybody, welcome to the Growth Experience Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Dye. This is episode 12. Super excited. This is a really kind of random connection, but some intricacies there that will tie in together. I'm really excited to have the pleasure and opportunity to interview, from what I understand, to be an incredible person, an athlete that I grew up watching, and I'm really excited to dive into his story. Real quick before we do that, want to give a shout out to all of our listeners. We started this podcast 3 months ago today, and so now we're well over 600 downloads for the podcast. Really just getting started. For me, I want to make sure that I do not despise small beginnings. I started this podcast just because I enjoy it, right? And whatever the outcome is what the outcome is. And so I know that you'll have some valuable information today for the listeners across all platforms, whether it be YouTube, Apple, Spotify, any of the, Google, Amazon, wherever you're tuning in, we're there. So enjoy this episode today. I think you will. I also want to say and give a shout out to Rocket Title. This episode is sponsored by Rocket Title Group, and they are a full service land, title, and escrow settlement provider here to protect your real estate investments. When you work with their knowledgeable team, you will be guided through the process in a transparent and timely way. Shout out to Rocket Title Group. They always do such a great job handling my clients. And, even if you have any random questions, if you're a real estate agent and, your title situation's up in the air, you don't have somebody that's loyal to you or that you are loyal to, please give Matthew Purdom and Rocket Title Group a shout. They would love to take care of you. And without further ado, Lorenzo Mauldin, man, appreciate you so much for being on the show.
No doubt. I appreciate you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited. Also, shout out, she's replaced Will for today. So typically we refer to my business partner and director of operations, Will Brooks, is usually sitting on the wall. But today we have Jennifer Bach with Ruoff Mortgage. Thank you so much for connecting Lorenzo and myself. This is a dream come true for me. I know, for you, bro, and not necessarily Lorenzo Mauldin IV being on the show, but to be able to use the talents that I feel like were given to me, and so that I can connect other people to the people that are sitting in that chair. That's what it's all about for me, because like I said, I know that the information that you give today is going to be pretty special. I already know, man. I already feel it, bro. There's a good energy in here right now. So anyways, without further ado, Lozo, man, will you please just shout out to the listeners and start to dive in on your background and what you're about, man?
All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? As you said, I'm Lorenzo Mauldin IV. Originally from Sacramento, California, was raised in Atlanta, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
I was a foster child growing up. Majority of my life was in foster care from the age of 2, in and out of foster care from the age of 2 to 18.
Wow.
It was kind of stressful. It was stressful,
sure.
Like anyone would think. But, it's a lot of underlying things to it. And I just felt comfortable telling the story from my perspective in order to kind of water it down for the people. I do have a book coming out right now.
Awesome.
About my life, and it's basically the raw stuff that I don't tell on camera.
Yes, sir.
It's definitely it's an eye-opener on basically seeing what's going on inside the minds and the lives of foster children, and the instances that go on in each foster home that I've been in. I've been in about a good 6 to 8 different foster homes.
Wow.
I was told to say, coming out of college and high school that I've been in like 12 different foster homes, but I mean, to exaggerate it a little bit, but just in reality, again, in my book, I say that I've been in about 8 different foster homes. Wow. In my time being in foster care. Still a lot, but it definitely gave me a different perspective on life and be able to push it and reach out to different people, reach out to people that it has affected, and then the people that it's going to affect. Right. I do say that I appreciate everything I've gone through. I do appreciate everything that I appreciate all the people that have helped me get to where I am today. I appreciate the process, and it's like I said, it's definitely eye-opening.
Yeah. No, man. So one of the things I say on the show, and I already know. I already told you. I already gave you a warning that this is going to be so good. If you're listening to this on 1.5 speed, slow this baby down, just one level, and catch everything. Write it down because it's going to be awesome. So one of the things I say on the show is that there's connection and vulnerability. So you don't know me from Adam. We don't know each other, but already kind of diving into your story, and I'm going to get the book because over the last few years, I've become more of a book reader. I think that's super important so that you can hear other people's stories, learn from them. But then also, I went through my fair share of trauma, when I was a kid, right? So I did not go to any foster homes, but my mom did. And so, she dropped out of school in the 8th grade. One of the things that we talked about on the first and second episode of the podcast, if you ever get the opportunity to listen, it's pretty raw, it's pretty real. Okay. She's writing her book right now too, and I'm writing a chapter in that book just to talk about our relationship and what we've been through. But yeah, I mean, just for myself, to let you know that you're not alone, and you already have connected with so many people to share your story, to tell them that they're not alone. But yeah, physical, emotional abuse. It was all the stuff that I was a part of and privy to from ages, birth to 4 or 5 years old. Thankfully, my dad ended up getting full custody of me. All my mom's side of the family's from Florida, Gainesville to be exact. Okay. We're going to hit on that. Okay. But then all my dad's side's from Kentucky. So he moved me to Kentucky when I was about 7 or 8 years old. And I was disconnected from my mom from age 4 to 12. Didn't know where she was. Yeah, and I know you have a similar kind of, not exact, but a similar story of your parents. And I just researching you and looking into your story, man, I think that, like you said, there's not a lot of people that know, understand, or can relate to the things that you've gone through. And so can you just kind of talk about, as much as you want to, right? Don't give away the details of the book because everybody needs to buy that Joker, okay? But as much as you want to, kind of dive in to, man, what that experience was like for you, how it shaped you and molded you into who you are today.
So basically it's a kid that's growing up, doesn't really know too much about anything, only what he's taught. Right. And it was... I'm trying to think without saying anything.
You're good.
So rough. It was a rough upbringing, different cultures in different foster homes, along with the culture that I kind of grew up with. Basically, both my mom and my dad were drug dealers, and kind of led my dad to a early demise, meaning getting incarcerated really early at the age of 2 for me, which led my mom to kind of fend for herself. There was family in the picture, but it was kind of iffy with that as well. So it led us to move to Georgia. I was told that we were back and forth from California to Georgia, and we were actually left in California for a while my mom moved to Georgia. Oh, wow. And we were left with my aunt, and we... somewhere in the story, it was kind of, we ended up back with my mom, and times got rough. We were back with my grandma. We were moving house to house to house and literally didn't know where to lay our heads. So we just kind of gave ourselves to the system, if that makes sense. Sure. Again, without trying to say anything from the book. But let the system take us, and we just took that ride. And like I said, it literally gave me a different perspective on, who was there for me, who gave me the information that I needed in order to move on in life.
Right.
And again, with the different foster homes, again, if you guys ever listen to this, I appreciate you guys for giving me the platform to be able to do what I do on a regular basis.
Right.
And like I said, I'm forever thankful for it, because it literally molded me to become who I am.
Yeah.
Whether it was a bad experience or whether it was a good experience, all experiences are good for me, because at the end of the day, I find a way to make them positive.
Sure.
And it gave me strength when I was supposed to be weak.
Yeah.
But I understood that I had siblings. I understood that I had a support group that gave me purpose, and I wanted to do that for them. I wanted to do it for myself most of all, but I wanted to do it for them as well.
Right. No, I love that, dude. And so one of the things that, like, when I talk about some of this stuff with my wife now, we'll be married 7 years. Not next week, but the week after, 2 weeks. We're actually going to do, we've been filming our own kind of series within the podcast called Family Matters, about raising our kids and marriage and things. But when she's asked me, like, my brain is wired for optimism. Like, and I'm sure a lot of the kids who've been through trauma, probably yourself even, like you said, I basically make all experiences good experiences because I learned something and it helps me navigate and get through the situations that I've been in. And she's asked me, how are you able to compartmentalize or always be optimistic towards, what's coming next, even if you're in a bad situation? And I tell her, for me, I've had to adopt that mindset since I was 2 years old. It's like, man, today really sucked, right? Like my stepdad would just beat my mom and I like every single day. And I remember that kind of stuff, right? And so when that happens, you can't think negatively about tomorrow, because if you do, especially as a kid, you're so innocent, you don't know any better, kind of like you said, it's automatically going to pull you towards a bad path in your mind. Yeah. So you have to think positively, you have to think optimistically that, man, tomorrow's got to be better than it was today, because today really sucked, right? Yeah. And so from a young age, it sounds like you and I can connect and relate in that, because, probably had more bad days than good. And like you said, no shade to anybody, because, one of the things, and as I, again, kind of studied you, on Twitter and your website and things, but, Paul says in Scripture that, he's all things to all people, and all the things that he went through them to advance the gospel, right? And so, like, he even says, I'm thankful for everything that he went through, because it brought him closer to faith and to God, and, some of the things that he contributes his salvation to, right? So anyways, we're going to we'll push forward a little bit. I want to know, and I want the listeners to know, one of the articles I read about you on your website and is the game saved your life. And so as you're going now, as a kid, going through these different foster homes, moving from here to there to everywhere, when did you first connect to sports and to the game? And, how did that help you through these situations?
As a kid growing up in foster care, I will say that I was not always an angel child. There was anger, there was frustration, there was a lot of anger. Sure, I fought day in and day out. I would get locked up. I would do all type of different things to how can I say, not pursue my future. And some people, like I said, my supporters, my coaches, my teachers, some of my foster parents, they kind of got into my head a little bit, basically saying that, wherever I am now, if I continue to act the way I am or was acting, I would end up with my mother and father, which were incarcerated. And like I said, I've been behind that door. I've been behind the little glass window, a cold cement bed, no pillows, just sheets.
Yeah.
I didn't want that.
Right.
I didn't want it at all, and I wanted no parts of it. Like it literally, like where you get fed here and there,
Right.
showers. You got a shower next to it. No, I didn't want that. I didn't want it, and finally, I just gave up. I gave up on the street life. I gave up on everything that I was doing at that moment in time. I turned the other cheek when it came to fighting. I just didn't want it anymore. And then finally, I got into my last fight, and my coaches were like, "Man, you got to do something else. You got to turn that aggression somewhere else." Like, and it was football. Like, I did everything I could in high school when it came to sports. Where I played soccer, baseball, football, basketball. I did everything I could, and nothing like amounted to the pain that I was going through. So I literally just gave it all in football, and it worked.
Yeah.
My coaches sat me down and basically told me, "Hey, you can go somewhere with this. Like you're," and I found out I was pretty good at it. So, I took it the distance, and I didn't want that taken away from me. I didn't want football taken away because I kind of fell in love with the game.
Sure.
And I felt like that was my handle. Like it literally gave me purpose. Like I said earlier, like these people gave me something to fight for. These people gave me something like it's weird because I say fight, but like I turned fighting into something else. Instead of actually punching, I gave it a moral value, which is football.
Sure.
And I kind of switched my aggression into actually fighting for this game, instead of fighting for my life at that point.
Right.
So,
man, that's good.
Yeah, and it I took it the distance.
Yeah.
And it was all she wrote.
Yeah. No, I love it. And one of the things too to point out, like, because I want to ask you a question, but I want to also point something out. So, like, I was not near the caliber athlete that you are, but did play sports growing up, and then also served in the military, which we touched on just a hair before we got started. And when you're a part of something like that, and you have other people around you, you mentioned, turn from fighting as a solo person against somebody else, right, to this productive fight for and with your teammates towards a common goal, right? And that's what the military is all about. That's what sports are all about. So I can understand and relate to that as well, that, you were able to channel these, and not, everybody talks about aggression and things like that. Like there's a piece of that maybe, but at the same time, you're really just focusing on, as an athlete and as a member of a team, whether it's business or, whatever that looks like, you're working to achieve a common goal. And so that has, able to pull you and separate you from the destructive activity that you were doing into a productive one, right? And so, and something that can actually take you somewhere, right? Rather than somewhere you don't want to go, right? And so I love, because I was going to ask you this anyway, as you're going through all of these different things, as I interview people, it's almost inevitable that, somebody that's going through something like what you went through, maybe not quite as intense, but there's always a point when they change their lives, and it's a person or a group of people that speak into them, that help provide purpose. And you mentioned your coaches said, "Hey, I think you can go somewhere with this," right? Can you touch on how important it was? And I guess, was that the first kind of experience you had with somebody really speaking positively into your life?
Yeah, definitely. That was a turning point for me in foster care. A lot of people just say, "Hey, this person is going to take care of you. Your mom is going to be here. Your dad is going to be here. So this is where you're going to be for however long you determine that you're going to be there."
Right.
Of course, with me being in 8 different foster homes, it was it never worked out apparently. And again, these foster parents, they would take care of me for certain, how can I say, like their own agenda. Some took care of me just before the money. Some people just took care of me just to say that they did it. And then some actually cared about me. So my first upbringing when it came to saying, hey, you can do something with your life, was with my coaches, with my teachers, with the people that were teaching me things. And I had a foster parent by the name of Andrea Gooden that pretty much got me into the spirit of actually playing sports. Sports was not a thing for me. Okay. Well, her mother's name was Andrea Gooden. Her name was Monique Gooden. And I kind of just, I don't know what got into me, like just them speaking good into my life, because I've been through so much bad. I kind of took a turn for the better. And I kind of gave it a chance. Like, I never thought that I would like give it a chance, but I actually gave it a chance because it felt good to actually hear this stuff. Tears came, the pain still came, and I just felt loved at that moment in time, because again, it's not just the foster parents. I'm feeling this love from people that I don't even know, and through the coaches, through my assistant principals, teachers, even friends at that moment in time. It felt good. So like I wanted more of it. And once I felt just a little bit of relief and like felt like I didn't have to look over my shoulder, I wanted more and more and more. And as I said before, like I just so happened to be good at the sport that everybody was pushing me to go for. And it was mind-boggling to me, because I'm looking at myself every time I go to lay down at night at this moment in time. I'm thinking to myself, dang, like this is what it feels like to be loved. This is what it feels like to have people on your shoulder, and not just have the devil on your shoulder, but you got multiple angels fighting that one devil. You know, and it gave me, like I said earlier, a different perspective on life, and I wanted to, dig in more into that.
For sure. Yeah, that's the power of light, bro, right? Right? Like light drives out darkness. And so even just one person that can speak positively into your life can flip that switch. And, ultimately it's still on you, still on your shoulders. You got to go put in the work. You got to hold yourself accountable to the goals you're trying to achieve. But when you have that encouragement behind you and the people behind you that believe in you, it's a different ballgame. I love that, man. I love that. So did you start, just kind of clarity purposes, did you start football in high school?
Yes. So I did play, I don't consider it football, but I did play a little Pop Warner football. I mean, that's basically just throw the ball up and go get it type. That was
not
my
even
first.
Throw it. They just run it now.
It's like literally, we're just out there scurrying around, and they got a couple of coaches from the neighborhood basically jumping in and saying, hey, we want you to play sports for us or whatever. But again, that was Monique Gooden trying to put her foot on me, trying to get me into sports and everything, because again, she saw that I was a troubled child. So wide receiver was my first position. Did not like it.
Everybody wants to score the teddies.
Everybody. Until you get hit. And I got hit a couple of times, and I broke my ankle, and I was like, no more football. I'm done. I'm done. No more football for me. And then I ended up actually leaving Monique, and I ended up going to. So I've been to 2 different group homes. So eight different foster homes, 2 group homes. And I got to this group home, and again, I went back to my old ways. This was when that's Pop Warner football. So like I jumped into high school in 9th grade, got kicked out of my school in 9th grade, so I didn't get a chance to play 9th grade. And 10th grade was it. That was it. 10th grade, my coaches pretty much sat me down and said, hey, you're a big kid. We need you on our football team. And that was it. 10th grade was my official start of playing football.
So you had 3 years of real football before you came to the University of Louisville.
Yes.
Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. Okay, so at this point, you're, and I mean, we could talk about that little section of life all day long because there's so many lessons and things that you learned within that. But for time purposes, I want to kind of move forward and, we can ignore it, but I heard and read that you committed to South Carolina first. So like I said, I'm from Gainesville, Florida originally.
Yeah.
So, I go for the orange and blue school. But, you wisened up and came to the red and black. So that was when Charlie Strong became the coach at U of L.
Mm-hmm.
What made you start applying and actually sending? I read that you were the 82nd best player in Georgia, is what I read. I don't know if that's true or not, or how accurate that is. But when you started getting noticed, maybe this is another opportunity to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, man, this is legit. Like, I'm getting noticed now. I'm getting offers from XYZ schools. What made you choose the University of Louisville?
So what's crazy is I tell the story. It's all over YouTube and everything,
okay.
and in the articles. I was going down to the University of Troy after South Carolina kind of decommitted from me, and they ended up choosing Jadeveon Clowney over me. And
he's pretty good.
I mean,
he's all right.
he's but no, no, he's a good player,
That's
great player. He's so Charlie ended up calling me while I was on my way down to the University of Troy, and he's basically being funny, being the funny guy that he is.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to Troy. You don't want to go to Troy, Mauldin. Come on down to Louisville. I'm like, well, coach, I can't turn around.
Right.
I'm halfway there. I'm halfway to Alabama right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, whatever you do, when, the next visit you go to, don't go to nowhere else. I was like, I did have an offer from UK, and he was like, oh, you got to come through Louisville first. You got to come through Louisville to get the UK. So stop at Louisville, and we'll talk about it. So I came down to Louisville the next week, and literally fell in love with it. Like the city alone, the food, the people.
Right.
It just, I mean, I felt like I was home. Like, and then I wasn't too far from Georgia.
Yeah. Like 6 hours to Atlanta.
6 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. And the group home family, I don't call them group home. I call them my family because they were the last people that I was with. The boys that were in the group home, the parents, everybody that was there. They took real good care of me, and they were the last people to take care of me before I was officially on my own in college. And they gave me the moral support that I needed throughout college, and I enjoyed it. So I'm thinking, hey, I asked them, what do you think? What do you guys think?
Yeah.
They were basically saying, I came down with, I call her Auntie, Donna Cunningham. And I asked her, I said, hey, do you think I should, commit to the University of Louisville? We were here as I was asking.
Okay.
And she said, yeah, I really like it here. And
that did it for you.
That was it for me.
Yeah.
Like, as long as I had her, like, I needed people to make decisions for me at that time because, again, this was a big decision for me. Like, I could like it, but I'm thinking to myself, back in the past, like, I decided stuff for myself and it didn't end up the way I wanted it to be.
Right.
So have someone with some type of experience, some type of judgment to themselves to be able to say, hey, this is a good spot for you. And it ended up being a good spot for me. Yeah.
No, I love that. So it sounds like it was, even through all the just toxicity and stuff that you grew up with, like, the transfer at this point in time, knowing you have somebody in your corner to University of Louisville, was it a pretty easy transition for you? Or did you kind of have to revisit some of those old, like, this is speaking from my perspective, but like, I have had points in my life where I had to look back and face that abandonment that I felt, right? So I'm curious about this next life transition for you, and how did that bode for you?
I'm not going to lie. It was definitely scary.
Yeah.
I was on my own, and I was afraid. So I still deal with anxiety and depression a little bit, and those first few weeks, it was so rough for me. Like, I'm sleeping in cold sweats. I was nervous. I didn't know what to do. Like, they were saying, oh, I had football training the next day, and I'm just like, I called them and I was like, come get me. Like, I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So they were basically saying, oh, we just got back, and you just stay there, be comfortable, like, we'll come back up if you need us, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, I can't do this. Like, I'm by myself. I don't know what to do. They left me with some money, and I'm like, I felt like I just got kicked out. Like, again, they said, so my anxiety started to hit, my depression started to hit. I was going back and forth with my coaches at that time, and Coach Hurt, I tell you, I got into it with him on the field, and he basically just stared at me. He said, "What's wrong with you, little boy?"
Oh, snap.
And I like, and if everybody knows Coach Clint Hurt, he's a big dude. So like, trying to go up against him was not advised.
Right.
And
0 out of 10. Yeah. Not recommend.
And he just looked at me, and I just started crying, man. And he just told me to go off to the sideline, and eventually he pulled me into a room and just talked to me, and just understood. And he got me to understand that they are just like foster parents. They're like people that are here for me, that are looking for a positive outcome for me. And once I understood that, Coach Strong did the same thing. I look at both of those guys as father figures to me.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about when Coach Strong left. It kind of hurt me more than most people think, but I just felt comfortable at that moment in time now. Like, it was rough for me because I felt like I just got dropped off. It's the same instance. Again, like, I got dropped off again, and I'm like, I'm being left to find some new family, or find some, which I did. And like I said, and that's why I ended up, for those that don't know, I ended up moving back to Louisville, and I brought my family with me because I feel comfortable here.
Amen.
And
awesome.
It's one of those things where, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. No, I love that. And it's funny too, like, I love that we got connected because I think there's a lot of similarities between our stories, right? So I moved to Kentucky with my dad when I was 8 years old, and then my dad was my hero, man. Like, all the stuff that I went through, we never really talked about it. I don't think he knew how to kind of dive into that, but I got reconnected with my mom when I was 12 years old. She called me. I did not know where she was, if she was alive, what she was doing, nothing, right, for 8 years. And so when we reconnected, it was like my world started to come back together again, right? And it was really cool for me to be able to, okay, now, they're separated. My mom still lives in Florida, but I have my mom and my dad again, right? And so, long story short, my dad died when I was 16.
God bless.
And so now my mom, who's living in Florida, she's in mission work now. She's an ordained minister. God has completely transformed her life. And she, amen, all glory. But she moved to Kentucky for my junior and senior year of high school. Well, my junior year, I lived with my grandma, my aunt, my uncle, and my 2 cousins, right? And we had all lived together already. My dad lived there too. That's where I grew up. Okay. And so right outside of Louisville in Oldham County. Okay. And so we, after he passed away, I didn't want anything to change. My mom moved here. She wanted me to live with her, and I told her, I said, I'm not living with you. Like, I don't want to right now. This is my comfort zone, right? And so my senior year, I decided to move in with her. And so we lived in some apartments in LaGrange, Kentucky. And for my senior year of high school, that was where, fertile ground to renew our relationship. And we have a great relationship today. But after my senior year, she was presented with a ministry opportunity back in Florida. And I was about to go to college, right? And so she said, hey, I have this opportunity to go back to Florida to this ministry and this church I was a part of. Do you mind if I go? And us, 18-year-old tough boy. I was like, no, go ahead. No big deal. It broke me, dude. Yeah. And that's we've talked about it. Same kind of experience. I got dropped off at college. I now know that college really wasn't for me anyway. Like I didn't fit into that mold. But I had a terrible experience. I mean, I was on a full tuition scholarship at U of L. I felt like I was by myself. I had really good friends. But at the end of the day, like, I was trying to live this adult life on my own, right? And it just was not working. So again, I appreciate your vulnerability in that, and me being able to connect and empathize with you, not just sympathize, but empathize with you, because I felt a lot of the same feelings probably, and went through a similar transition for myself. Fortunately, I found a family there that I came really close to as well, just like my friends, and that were there with me when my dad passed away. We went to college together, and so that helped me kind of not go too far the wrong way. Sure. But yeah, I definitely had my fair share of struggles when I was at school at U of L. So I went to U of L fall of 2009, and you got there in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. It feels weird that I'm older than you. I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, so yeah, let's kind of dive deeper into that. You're at U of L now. Did you start as a defensive end?
Yes.
Okay. And then you moved to linebacker, right? Senior year?
Actually, I was recruited as a defensive end.
Okay.
And took a turn for the worse, man. Josh Chichester ended up getting hurt, and I wasn't. We had Bill Savoy and Randy Salmon as defensive ends, and I wasn't going to jump on the field at defensive end. So Coach Hurt pulled me off to the side again and basically said, "Hey, how do you feel about playing tight end?"
Oh wow!
And I was like,
I done broke my ankle playing wide receiver.
I was saying like, yeah. I was like, Coach, I don't like that side of the ball. He's like, well, you want me to be honest with you, or you want me to lie to you? And I'm pretty sure you don't want me to lie to you. Yeah. And he said, you're not going to see the field at defensive end this year. But you told me in my visit that I was going to play defensive end and that I was going to play my first year or whatever. And, that's what every kid asks when they come into college. Hey, am I going to play my first year? Am I going to play as a freshman? And, they tell you the lies and everything. And they say, hell yeah, just to get you there. But, tight end. Tight end was there. It is. I ended up being a tight end for Teddy.
I did not know this.
Yeah, I was a tight end for Teddy. They switched my number to number 86, and it was rough. Yeah. It was rough. But what's crazy is they ended up switching me back to defensive end at the end of the year, and I ended up starting for the bowl game, which was against NC State. And that was all she wrote from there, and I ended up being a starter from there. Yeah. And had a great game and took over, like you said.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I got you. So, like, moving into – when did we play? It was 2013 was a Sugar Bowl, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
20 – it was my sophomore year we went to the Sugar Bowl.
Okay, so 2012 season.
Yeah, 2012 season. Yeah.
I got you. So, yeah, I'm originally from Gainesville, Florida. I grew up a Gator fan. I was born at Shands Hospital, okay? Everybody gives me trash being in Kentucky, especially the UK fans and whatnot. But, listen, I've been around a long time. So, anyway, that was a really cool moment for me, too, because, I was a drum major for the marching band at U of L. For that year, and it was my junior year of college, and everybody was asking me, like, who you going to go for? And I'm like, in a U of L marching band uniform, who you think I'm going to go for, right? And so, man, what a game, bro.
You guys had us lit that game. I'm not going to lie to you.
That was a great season and a great game. So I ran into Devontae Parker on Bourbon Street.
Okay.
Probably like the night before the game.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
I know. I can say yeah. We were all out. We were all out there. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. I had a good time as well. But I ran into him and I told him, I said, man, Cody Riggs, He's a press corner. He's going to come up on you and try and jam you up.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife always says my second calling would have been sports broadcasting because I love football. I love sports. And I think it was, I want to say it was 17-3 when Teddy threw him the fade to the end zone. He scored against Cody Riggs. And I was like, and like all my friends were around me that were there too. And they all looked at me like, oh my gosh. I was like, I told you. And, it's because I've watched Florida all season, right? So, yeah, I mean, how special was – not just that year, but that team playing with Teddy and Devontae and Damian Copeland and Scott Radcliffe, who still lives here in Louisville. I'm a residential real estate agent by day, by trade, and I know he is too. So what was that? And that's just the offensive side of the ball, right? Preston Brown, like all these guys, all these dudes that were, you got the opportunity to play with and be teammates with and be a family with. Can you talk about how that kind of leveled you up and propelled you into your next season, which we'll get to, but I just want to stay here for a minute.
The camaraderie in the locker room was unreal.
Yeah.
We had the same thing on the field.
Yeah.
You could tell it transitioned from the locker room to the field, and it gave us more incentive to want to play for each other. We saw what we did in the first year. Second year, we decided that we wanted to take it up a notch, and which we did. We were one game short from making it to the Orange Bowl, but we thought we made it to the Orange Bowl, but it gave us another adrenaline shot to want to play for each other. Because again, I think we were one of the best recruiting classes in the nation or whatever, and we came in and we proved that. And again, we wanted to keep proving. Each year we basically just told each other, or we said, we had like our own team meetings and everything, where players meetings, and we basically just said, we have to step it up. We have to put in the work in order to take it further than the Sugar Bowl. And it kind of helped me do that in a sense of the player itself, like just player in myself, just like, hey, these guys are pushing hard. So like, this is where I put my two hands on the uphill axis and help out, you know? So I'll get 9 sacks, I'll get 6 sacks, 9.5 sacks. I'll do whatever I have to do in order to propel us to go wherever we're trying to go. The game that Will Stein got hurt in, and Teddy came into the equation, it kind of, I don't know what it was, because everybody loved Will. Everybody wanted him to succeed in everything. But when Teddy came into the game, everybody's mental just went and just skyrocketed. Everybody's just like, okay, we got this guy from Florida. We got this guy that's got, like, he's one of the top in the nation, blah, blah, blah. And like, it made everybody want to play for him even harder. So like, we played hard for Will, but we played harder for Teddy. And I don't know what it was, but it was just the whole thing of, and then Will came back in, and we still wanted to play hard for Will as well. Yeah. So that's why I said the camaraderie in their locker room literally transitioned over onto the field. Yeah. And again, it helped me understand, like, okay, these guys are serious. These guys want to do it. And just never got to a national championship. So it's just, so close.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun for us, because I got there in the, I don't know him personally, so it's not a personal dig, but the Cragthorpe era is what everybody calls it. Being a Florida fan, my guy Charlie just left UF to come to U of L, and I was like, man, he's going to turn it around. And I know that's one of the things he wanted to do, is bring culture and tradition to University of Louisville. So we started trying things as a band, like pregame and like all this different stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it's always more fun when you win, right? And as an athlete and a player, that it's easy to kind of take that, but you got to have that culture and that camaraderie first, right? That has to be the foundation, whether it's business, sports, life, whatever that looks like. That is what helps you, the light that we talked about, carry over into being successful and,
Right.
and trying to work as a team and achieve a common goal. So I love hearing you talk about it from your perspective, because from mine, it was pretty awesome anyway, right? So I want to rewind just a little bit, because you mentioned a couple things. Transitioning, not necessarily just talking about U of L, but one of the things I wanted to ask you, as you know, you're navigating through sports and life. Can you talk about, you know, your mindset? Like you said, you mentioned something that was kind of casual, but I think it's really important. Like, because I've done the same thing. You said, you know, as you were growing up, you stopped at this time to look at yourself in the mirror every day, and like how you're talking to yourself. So your mindset, and then when did faith really? Because I hear you talk about it, and I see some things, especially on the Twitter. I see how active you are in talking about God and your faith. When did faith become a real big factor for you, especially to ground you with all the things that you were dealing with?
I'd say my senior year in high school, where things became, I felt like everything was going right, but then there were instances where there was times where I kind of reverted back to my old ways. And I kind of didn't think that I was going to go to college because of my test scores. Failed the ACT once. I failed the ACT twice, and I passed the SAT. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, South Carolina, like, okay, this is SEC, this is big time football. And I'm thinking, like, hey, I'm good enough to play SEC football. I got an offer from South Carolina.
Right.
And I didn't get the test scores the second time, and I'm just like, I'm done. Like, I don't like, because I'm thinking, if I pass this, if I failed this test twice, I'm not going to be able to get into school.
Right.
And I just thought I was the dumbest person on earth. They were saying that the ACT was easier than the SAT, and you know, it's a lot of things going in my head.
Right.
A lot of people putting stuff in my head, and I'm just like, I'm considered that dumb jock, like the one that is really good at bruising people, but couldn't tell a book from a pamphlet. So I was just basically trying to give myself to this test, and this test wasn't giving anything back.
Yeah.
And I literally just sat in my room while I was in the group home, and I cried, man, because I didn't know if I was going to amount to anything. I'm like, hey, well, I'm just here. Like, I'm good at football, but I suck in the classroom. And I was doing pretty good in school. Like, I mean, I was like 2.8, 2.9 GPA or something like that, and didn't really like tests. And still, like, because again, my anxiety. Like, once, like, I can study for a test all day, all week, get the test, blank.
Wow.
My anxiety would not let me finish that test or get that test.
Right.
And that carried over into the ACT and the SAT. And I started to pray, man. Pray. Auntie Donna Cunningham was big in the into God, and she kind of, I got a Bible for the first time. And I kind of I literally read from Genesis 1 up to Deuteronomy. And I literally just, all that stuff, like, kind of gave me, I can't even, like, explain it. It kind of gave me a extra push, because now I'm like, there's one more person or one more figure that is trying to tell me something in a positive manner.
Yeah.
And so much that was going on in my life was just in between Genesis and Deuteronomy.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So now I'm thinking like, hey, it's one more person. It's God that's here for me. Right. And I see this. So like, he's basically telling me, go one more time.
Yeah.
Go one more time.
Yeah.
Along with the foster parents, along with a couple of my brothers that were there. And I said, you know what? Let me switch it up. Instead of taking the ACT, let me take the SAT. Mm-hmm. SAT, I was so good at writing.
Okay.
So like, I took that and I went into that writing portion of the SAT, and I just kept writing and kept writing and kept writing. They say, of course, you get a couple points just for putting your name on the test and all that stuff. But I took that writing portion, and I just kept writing. But then I lost space on the paper, so I just kind of shorted it.
Yeah.
And took the math portion, took the other portions and all that other stuff, and I prayed when I finished the test. Couple of weeks later, get a yellow envelope, say you passed the test. I dropped to my knees, man.
Yeah.
I dropped, like, I get emotional now because it's
like,
like,
me emotional,
yeah,
dude.
man, because because nobody was in the room when I opened the letter.
Right.
But then I screamed to the top of my lungs. I told Auntie, and I told, at the time, it was a foster parent by Vince Burt. He was there too as well when I got to Louisville. Mm-hmm. That I passed the test, and they just hugged me, man. Mm-hmm. They just hugged me, and that night I went to bed, and I just kept saying, thank you, Lord. Like, just kept saying it over and over and over until I fell asleep. So that was my turning point with God, that literally gave me my purpose.
Yeah. No, yeah. I love that, dude. And it's funny. I've got. Come on, man. Let it flow, dog. Let it flow.
Yeah.
No, I have a couple things written down because I felt like we were gonna get here, and so, man, thank you so much for sharing that part of your story, because I almost started this podcast 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And if I had, it would have been all about me and all about business and all about money and all about real estate and this, that, and the other thing, right? And God kind of told me, like, it just never came together for me. Right. But then at the beginning of this year, as I started to, last year is when I really started to share my story publicly. And as I'm gearing up I'm just asking him, like, what do you want me to do? Like, I feel like last year was a tough year for us. Personally as a family, and then also as I'm telling my story, I'm opening up a lot of old wounds, which I'm sure you can understand. Mm-hmm. And so, God was like, start the podcast. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. And so, we ended up connecting with High Adventure Studios through people that I knew that I literally went to elementary school with here in Kentucky, and just crazy stories, right? But I wrote this scripture down. My mom and I are starting a nonprofit for victims of human trafficking. So my mom was a victim of human trafficking. And so we are very, very blessed to be able to open up a residential care facility to help people, right? That's the whole goal, is to open this thing to help people, to rehabilitate people, to get our clients back into society and become productive members of society, and let them know that no one, like, there's somebody there, right? God first and foremost, but also us, that we're not going to give up on you. And so I love that you have people in your corner, and that you kind of uncovered that, God tells us he'll never leave us nor forsake us, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and if you don't know this about the Bible, and if you are a Christian, you read the Bible and you do know this, but like, Scripture says that the Bible is the living word. So as you're reading that and you're walking through that and you're relating it to your life, and you open yourself up to try and listen to God and hear from God, he's going to speak to you, like, every time. Mm-hmm. So our scripture for the nonprofit is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but I also had and I don't have this written down, but as you were speaking, man, I don't know if you're familiar with Romans 8:28. It says, all things work together for good, for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Mm-hmm. And so you're sharing your story and how God has worked in your life. That gives him the glory for his purpose, right, through you. And so keep sharing, dude. Like when I know you wrote a book, and one day I'll write a book. I really, like I told you, school's not for me. So you love writing. I enjoy writing, but I'm about done in like 5 minutes. Like I'll sit down, and start writing, and I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so tired. And so I got to take a break. The ADHD kicks in. But man, all things work together for good for those that love God. And I don't know, we've known each other for 54 minutes and 30 seconds, and I can already tell, man, that you have just such a huge calling on your life.
I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you.
So I know you wanted to talk about, and I didn't have this on the docket, but can you walk again through that transition of Charlie Strong leaving? That's when he took the job at Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you talk about, again, that's another abandonment issue, right, that we dealt with, that you had to deal with when he left to go to Texas as you're not done playing yet.
Yeah.
How did that, and you saw a noticeable shift in the team too, right? So
Definitely.
like, as you said, you built that camaraderie and that culture in the locker room as coaches and players off the field, but it took a direct shift to how we performed on the field, right? So can you kind of just, you mentioned you wanted to touch on that, so I want to bring it back to you.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it goes back to my parents, just leaving abruptly and not letting anyone know, like, just, again, we don't know. We're young. We don't know what's going on. We just know that our parents aren't there.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I built a strong relationship with Charlie. I built a strong relationship with Clint Hurt. And for him to just up and leave like that, it kind of gave me flashbacks. Both my parents are leaving, and I don't know what happened to them. And it's the same instance. Charlie Strong leaving again. He was my parent figure while I was in school. I trusted this guy to come to trusted him enough to come to this school, and he just leaves. So it's, again, that was my abandonment issue. Like, that's why I said earlier, it hurt me more than most people think, because now I'm back to phase one. And now I have to have another parent come in, which was Bobby Petrino, but I knew nothing about him. He's a foster parent to me. And I know nothing about him. I only know what was on the rap sheet. That's the same thing they do in foster care with the child care system. They pretty much give you a rap sheet of who the parent is,
right?
How many foster children they've had in their home, or is there other children in the home, like just a rap sheet. And I get the rap sheet from Bobby Petrino, and he was here. He went through his little scandal thing, and it was and
Atlanta Falcons.
Atlanta Falcons. He did the same thing to the Falcons, and just left and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, back to Charlie.
Right.
Why did you leave? And why didn't you tell anybody? You just up and left. Like, dude, my heart, you're taking my heart with you. Like, you can't just leave.
Right.
Like, and when he left, it's just, again, you felt the downshift in the team. We were in a meeting room. We're thinking, they called a team meeting. We're thinking, all right, we about to hear from Charlie, blah, blah, blah. But before then, we see a bunch of stuff on social media.
Oh, wow.
And we're like, all right, he's going to tell us he's leaving at least. Nothing. Vance Bedford comes in the meeting room and basically tells us, Charlie's not here anymore. He left and took a job to Texas or whatever. And we found out that the coaches didn't even know.
Wow.
So
insider info right here.
Yeah. So we found out the coaches didn't even know. And we heard that he was going to give us like individually a call. Never got a call from him. You want to know something crazy? The next time I heard from Charlie was on draft day.
Yeah.
On draft day, but he didn't speak to me directly. He was talking on the screen.
Right.
he was talking on screen. Yeah, Lorenzo Mauldin, blah blah blah. This, and that. I'm seeing him as I'm getting drafted.
Right.
I'm seeing him talk about me, but I'm like, dude,
Haven't heard from you.
I haven't heard from you in forever.
Right.
And again, it hurt me a lot. And I just didn't know what to think. But I'm thinking, hey, I'm a junior now, and I'm going to be a captain of this team next year.
Mm-hmm.
And I just need to carry the load. Like, I need to help carry the load because guys are going to start looking at me now.
Right.
And when they called me in the room with Bobby Petrino, to announce the uniform change and all of that stuff with the black uniforms. Part of me wanted it to be Charlie in there. Part of me wanted it to be strong there so we could so we can finish what we started. And it wasn't. It was little old Bobby Petrino and I towered him, so it's just that call. I always call him.
You tower a lot of people, bro.
And he came in and basically he asked me a question. Do you like to win? And I was like,
no.
Is that a trick question,
right,
Coach? Like, I was like, yeah, I like to win. He's like, all right, that's all I need to know. And that was all he said to me. And I knew he was about business, so I took the same approach. I barely talked to him, but I knew what he was about. And again, it changed my perspective just a little bit more. Like, oh, hey, the fun is being taken out of this, but now it's all business. But I can still have fun within the locker room. But every time he was around, it's like, all right, cut that. Cut the fun.
Yeah.
Cut the fun. Because this guy, he doesn't take fun a little. I mean, I don't know if he's within his family, but again, this guy always had a frown on his face. Like, he literally had that mean mug, or he had that little, I don't know how you call it, what you call it. It's that little smirk, that little, I don't know what it is, but it's like he's smiling, but he's serious as all outdoors.
Right.
And I'm just like, oh, I hate that smirk. Because, I hate that little smirk, I swear. Because my coaching for the Jets, Todd Bowles, he had the same smirk.
Bowles, yeah.
Like, every time you see him, I'm just like, and then he's serious as ever. I'm like, what is that? Like, I don't know whether to smile or laugh at you or like whether to, tuck my tail between my legs. Like, but I just knew he was about business. So I'm like, okay, you're a senior now. NFL is knocking at the door. Let's get to work. And then outside linebacker it is. I'm just like, yeah. All right, here we go.
Right. That position change for you.
Yeah, it was weird. Going backwards, it wasn't my thing, but I had to learn.
Yeah. No, I got you. Man, we could do a whole podcast on leaving well. And I plan to do one because that's something that no matter what position you're in, right? You're the Division I head football coach of a great school, or you're transitioning jobs, from a 9 to 5 or whatever, right? A lot of people don't like, and it's so cool to hear you talk about this because, as I said, I'm a big fan of sports. My wife texted me this before we started the show, and she was like, "This is like going to be probably one of your favorite episodes because you love football so much." She knows me, she gets me. But on the outside, we always see like, "Oh, yep, Charlie Strong's going to Texas," or Urban Meyer's going to Ohio State, right? Or, whatever that looks like for your favorite team. And it changes all the time. It's a carousel. That's what they call it, the coaching carousel. Yeah. And so, but you don't hear every day from people that it affects, right? And so, especially, everybody thinks that, like, nobody knew, and this is a label from society, but as a foster kid, right? Nobody knew that you were a foster kid, and nobody knows how that abandonment affects you, and that they don't even talk to you, right? But people do that kind of stuff all the time because they don't want to have hard conversations. That's really it. That's it. Right? Ultimately, they can't come in and face you, and I'm one of the guiltiest people, right? Prior to the last 2, 3, 4 years, I did not leave places well because for me and the person who's leaving, it's easier just to kind of cut the cord and walk away and walk into your next thing. But you don't even realize, like, God's not going to bless that next season because of the way that you ended the last one, right? So if you want to end well, being able to have those conversations and look at people in the face and say like, hey, I have this opportunity. It's something I feel like I can't pass up. I love you. I love you guys, right? Like, at least that,
Give
right?
me something.
Yeah.
Give me something. Because, I mean, and it's hard. It's hard to say goodbye, and a lot of people don't want to.
Right.
But you have to remember that being a person, being somebody, gives you, it's like automatic. Like, you have to give sympathy, you have to give empathy, you have to show that you care, like, not just through your coaching, but through being a person, just a person in general.
Right.
Yes, you took another job. Yes, you are getting paid more, but at what expense?
Right. Right.
You're leaving us just to do that, but then, like, just imagine if it was your family, would you do the same thing? And we thought we were your family. But, I mean, it's hard. It's the hard thing. He still has my respect. He still has my love. But it's just the whole thing of, you could have done what you, and I hate it for the kids now here at Louisville with Satterfield doing the same thing.
Right. At least you beat them in the bowl game, though.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I guarantee you, if we would have played Texas, we would have gave them a run for their money.
Right.
Because of the simple fact that our coach just left us, and we wanted to make a statement.
Right. You don't realize as you're talking about as a person, every single person has a platform, right? We think about a platform as hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people that we impact. Every single person has a platform. You impact somebody, right? Whether even if it's just your family, right? Your friends. And so when you connect with people, you can't think about just yourself. You've got to think about others. And so, man, I love the transparency that you talk about this with, because it's something that, especially as a sports fan, we don't get to hear how that affects the players. So now, real quick, we'll start to wrap up. I'm a long wrapper-upper. That's not a real word. But every time I say I'm about to wrap up, it's another 15 minutes. So there is somebody coming in after us. So I want to make sure that we ran into their time last week. So that's why we started earlier this week. But you're straight. So I want to talk about now. Senior year happens. You're playing for a different coach. You're playing a different position, right? But now I cannot wait to watch the draft. It's one of my favorite things ever, to watch the players and where they go and the needs that NFL teams feel like they have to fill, right? And so you, dude, from everything that you went through to now, you talk about being drafted by the New York Jets. How incredible was that experience for you?
Incredible is an understatement.
Yeah.
It's the American dream, man. Like, it literally was everything that I've suffered, everything that the pain, mentally and physically. Oh man, it was like I'm getting chills now just thinking about it, because it's like that night. Yeah, first round, second round went by, and then my agent's telling me at the time, like, hey, you could get picked today. And I'm thinking, like, okay, get dressed up, do the thing, and just embrace the day. Man, I was drinking, I was eating, I was nervous eating, and I just didn't. I couldn't sit still. You talk about ADHD. I thought I had ADHD there. I was just like, I could not sit still. Like, I was from room to room, just literally watching every TV that was on.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you say I was the 82nd best player in Georgia.
I was gonna say this too, because you were the 82nd pick.
And I was the 82nd pick in the draft.
I've noticed that too.
Man, what's crazy is I had my good family there, the Perry family. Gina Perry, Allison Perry, and they were there, and everything just went up in a flash, like really quick. I went upstairs to go get something to eat because, again, I told you I could not sit still. I went upstairs to go get something to eat, and I started eating, and Allison stands next to me, and she's basically just rubbing me on the back, just trying to ease me up or whatever. And I'm eating, and my phone's sitting there, and it's ringing. I don't know it's ringing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, because all the TVs are loud, so like it's literally ringing out loud, and I'm half drunk. I'm eating uncontrollably, and I have a wing in my hand. I'm eating, and she's like, Lozo, your phone's ringing.
Yeah.
Didn't hear it the first time. Lozo, your phone's ringing. Yeah. And I go to look down at my phone. It's a number from New York.
Wow.
Well, Jersey.
Yeah.
And I go to answer it, and they who's the GM at the time? Mike McCagnon is on the phone, and he basically says, "Hey, hi Lorenzo, this is Mike McCagnon from the New York Jets," and I almost fainted, like I lost everything,
right.
Like feeling in my legs and everything, and that's all I see is Allison do this.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and then she rushes downstairs and calls everyone from downstairs to come upstairs. Wow. And everything went black, and that's all I went blind. I lost all feeling, but the only thing that the only sense that I had was my hearing, because that's all I wanted to hear was him say, "You're going to be picked in this next pick."
Wow.
And then he puts drew a blank, head coach. I said his name.
At the time?
Yeah.
Was it Todd Bowles?
Todd Bowles. Yeah. He put Todd Bowles on the phone, and like you can tell how flustered I am because I'm refilling this all over again. And he basically just, talks to me and everything, and out of the blue, in the next pick for the New York Jets, Lorenzo Mauldin, and then everybody screams and yells, and I'm just like, I just got picked.
Yeah.
To play for the NFL.
That's amazing, dude.
And man, I cried the entire night.
Yeah.
The entire night.
For sure.
Could not go to sleep. I was up till about 4 or 5 o'clock the next morning.
Yeah.
And just partying and just happy, man. Yeah. Just happy. Like I did it. Like I made it to the NFL.
Right.
But I didn't want it to stop there though.
Yeah.
So.
No. I'm letting that marinate. For real,
man,
I'm letting that breathe, because that
my heart's beating right now. It's crazy.
I love it.
It's crazy.
And when you have those dreams, man, and they're planted in you for a reason, because you have the talent and the gift to do it, right? No matter what it is, and that dream becomes fulfilled. I'm waiting on a dream of mine to become fulfilled, and I'm talking about the nonprofit, between my mom and I being in ministry together, working together, helping people together, building something together.
Yeah.
After all that we've been through, like, I know that I'm going to have, we've been waiting on some funding for a year and a half. And I know as soon as we get the phone call, we talk to our donor every single week about updates and when things are going to happen, right? And I know when I get that call, it's going to be like that. It's going to be like just tears of joy.
Yeah.
So I love you kind of, and like you said, it's like reliving it all over again, that experience for you, and the people that are around you in that moment, wrapping you up, being with you, just really special, I'm sure.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And it like I said, it happened, and it feels like it's still happening, although I'm in the CFL now, it's just, if I'm doing what I love, and I'm getting paid for it. Right. I mean, obviously I don't care about the money, because now it's like I'm getting paid less, but it's like I played in the NFL,
right?
Like, and I was well established in the NFL. It's not like I was just there just to sit on the bench or playing behind so many different people. It's just I was able to go and put my stamp on the NFL, and now my name is on a wall that I played in the NFL is something I can tell my daughters.
Right.
And something I can tell my grandchildren that, hey, your grandfather played in the NFL and he played for the New York Jets.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something, definitely an accomplishment. And like I said, I'm 30 now, but I'm nowhere near done.
Right.
So whether that opportunity presents itself again, or if it doesn't, I still made it there.
Right, and I love that you say that, because so many people, I feel like when they do, maybe they do accomplish this dream and they're not able to, like you said, you move from the NFL to the CFL, and they're not in it anymore, right? But, they feel like it's a disappointment rather than, and I'm sure maybe there was a feeling of that, like after you got hurt or, transitioning to the CFL, maybe there was a little bit of that, but right now you can appreciate like, no, I achieved this goal and I'm not done yet. And you've said that a couple times, which is what I love. And that doesn't necessarily mean even going back to the NFL, right? Like I saw you comment to somebody the other day saying like, they're drawing back on all the defensive players anyway, and I'm happy with where I'm at. You were just named the most outstanding defensive player for the CFL. 17 sacks?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yes.
So you're leaving your stamp on the CFL too, right?
Sure.
And, one of the things that you mentioned, and again, starting to wrap up, but one of the things that you mentioned is, your daughters, right, and your family. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children, right? And, as you talk about that, I can see how joyful you are to bring your family along with you in this journey. And now you have the opportunity, just like I did, to flip the script for your family from what you knew to where you ultimately want your family to be, right? Okay. You don't have to give a bunch of details or anything, but would you mind just talking about your family?
Yeah. My wife, Erica, now Mauldin, and my daughter, Serenity Mauldin. We have a new addition to the family coming soon in July. Patience Mauldin.
Okay.
They're my world, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't forget Sir Oliver. Sir Oliver the puppy.
The puppy.
Sir Oliver Mauldin. They're my white picket fence family. They're what I always dreamed to have, growing up, a man is always willing to sacrifice so much, but again, at what expense? And I am sacrificing my body, my time with them, for them. Everything that I do, I want to do for them. Again, because I didn't actually see that growing up.
Right.
So I wanted to be able to start a new era for my family. Have children that have a mother and a father together.
Yes, sir.
And stay together.
Right.
Sacrifices, man.
Yes.
Sacrifices. That's all it is.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Are you willing to do something to protect another? And that's what I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
And my family is Erica, Serenity, and soon to be Patience, and Sir Oliver. They are, they're my world, man.
Yeah.
They're my world. And I wear my ring proudly.
Yeah.
As a father, as a husband, and I wouldn't want anything to take that away from me. So,
right.
I've changed my fight to another instance.
Yeah.
Not just for football, not just to save my life, but to keep my family together and keep my family strong.
Right. Yeah. It's probably one of the biggest fights, right? When you've got somebody that, being on a team, you're playing with each other, playing for each other. But when you are, and I feel this too, responsible for the upbringing and the lessons and the life and the success and everything you want for your kids and your family, your wife, it's a different game.
Yeah.
And so I think about that every single day, and there's a lot of times where, I'm sure you feel this too, having to be away sometimes. And, there's times where, I don't feel like I spend as much time with my family as I want to or as I should. But I know that as long as that is at the forefront of my mind, that it'll be okay, because if I ever let it go to the back, right? Like, I'm an achiever by nature. I can work all day, all week, all year, all the time because I love it, right? It brings me fulfillment. But I have had to learn, not to become, and this is another reason why this podcast started now rather than 2 years ago, is because it's not just about me and being a public success at the expense of being a private failure. Like, I want to make sure that I'm known in my home, and that my wife comes from a split family too, and that we stay together and we go through every single thing that we do together for the betterment of our kids and our family.
For sure.
So I can totally relate, especially being a young guy. I started our family. My oldest son is 10. His name's Noah. I came into his life when he was just about to be 2 years old, and I was 25.
Okay.
And so I'm 32 now, but we are done. We're officially done with 4 kids.
Yeah.
But they're my world, man. They make the world go around for me. And obviously even leading them into a life of faith, that's something that's really important to my wife and I. Sounds like it's important to you too, of, helping our kids to understand and not just about rules, but a relationship with God, just like how you found him, right, and how he's always been there for you. We want to be there for our kids, but we want them to know that God is always with them too.
Yeah, for sure. And I say, life is all about perspective.
Oh, for sure. I say that all the time, bro.
Life Man, is all about perspective. Did we just become best friends?
Yep.
Yeah, life is all about perspective. And this is one perspective to look at. As a man that has a family, you have lives in your hand now. You have lives in your hands now. So what are you going to do, or what have you done to assure the lives that you have in your hands that everything is going to be okay?
Right.
Everything, you don't have to worry about a darn thing, because I'm here to lay a foundation. You can help me build it, but I'm here to lay the foundation. You can build on top of that.
Right.
And that's how I look at, with God, again, being my foundation, and I'm just building on top of his foundation, and my family's helping me build the kingdom that we're trying to
yes, sir,
accomplish.
Love that.
So
Kingdom.
Yeah.
Love that. Do you know who Pastor Mike Todd is?
No.
So Michael Todd, look him up. He's the head pastor of Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Okay.
He just preached like one of the most powerful messages on the kingdom that I've ever heard.
Okay.
So if I could find it, I'll shoot it to you.
Okay.
But it's fire. It's like how to bring heaven with you wherever you go, right? How to bring the kingdom with you and build into that. It's
That's
legit. So yeah. Okay, wrapping up for real now.
For real. 3.
Yeah. So one of the things I always do is kind of 3 rapid fire questions at the end, just to get the first answer that pops off the top of your head. I listen to music all the time when I work out, so I'm just curious, as a football guy, what kind of favorite playlists or artists do you listen to in the gym or when you're doing training or workouts?
I listen to pretty much everything, but it's so weird, but I listen to R&B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. R&B or pop. Yeah.
R&B or pop. I like it. Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Any books, authors, or speakers that you follow that are influential for you?
I'll say myself.
Yeah.
Myself.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
You got a credible story, man.
I appreciate that.
And so I know that, I'm going to read it. I can't wait to read it. I'm going to buy some merch off the site. Appreciate you being on the show. And then another kind of just funny one, because I'm always curious and how it relates to people, but your first W-2 job. Where did you work first?
My first W-2 job. I would have to say. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I got a W-2 from it, but I worked at Churchill Downs in college.
Oh, did you?
Yeah,
That's cool.
I was helping with security on the back end.
I gotcha.
In the back gates, I believe. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. We played there too, being in the band and coming to Derby and
infield.
Yep,
Yeah,
infield. Yeah,
infield gates.
That's where we always were too. So, that's really cool. I haven't had anybody. It's funny. My wife's was a movie theater. Somebody else's was Subway. So I just liked it. I don't know. It's kind of just quirky. It's funny. Okay, so people want to get a hold of you after listening to the show. Maybe they want to inquire about your book, when it's coming out or whatever. When is it coming out?
So I am in the ending stages of it. I believe it should come out by January.
Okay. Love it. And then how can people get a hold of you? What are some of your social handles or?
My Twitter is Mauldin.iv. Or no, is it Lozo 4? It's Lozo IV. And my Facebook is Mauldin, Lorenzo Mauldin. Instagram is Mauldin.iv. And I'm a Twitcher now, so
okay.
Yeah, so you guys can reach me on Twitch at Guerrilla Warfare 94.
Like it. And then you got fanarch.com, which is part of your website where you sell some merchandise and things like that. So y'all check that out. Again, I just want to thank you for coming on the show. As we're leading out, again, I have to mention Rocket Title Group. They're a full-service land title and escrow settlement provider here to protect your real estate investments. When you work with their knowledgeable team, you will be guided through the process in a transparent and timely way. Thank you again so much to Rocket Title Group for sponsoring this episode. And I say this at the end of every episode, and I'm saying it to you as well as to the listener. But just like I do every single week, I want to tell you that you have a gift. It's time to grow in it.